I'm Danny Haifong, journalist, author, and host of the YouTube channel The Left Lens. I live in New York City and remember the early days of the pandemic very well. I consider my experience unique because 2 months before New York City discovered its first case in March of 2020, I was traveling across China, the world's first epicenter for COVID-19. I made many friends in China before any of us knew about the virus and kept in touch with one living in Wuhan. As I would go on and on about New York City's slow response to COVID that March, he was telling me about China's rapid and thorough public health measures, including the citywide lockdown, which he endured for 2.5 months, the construction of large quarantine hospitals in a span of just a few weeks, and the mass testing and tracing campaigns consisting of hundreds of thousands of volunteers throughout the country, several of whom he met. He said that the government declared a people's war against COVID-19 and viewed even a single death as one too many. While he was saddened by the COVID-19 tragedy, he was confident that the situation would improve. And improve it did, to the point where Wuhan fully reopened in April of 2020, just 1 month after New York City finally responded to COVID-19. So I considered myself lucky to be able to speak with my friend in China over this period, even though back in New York City, what I was experiencing from that March to April time frame was a massive shortage in testing kits, masks, hand sanitizer, and other forms of personal protective equipment, as well as the hundreds of people per day who were dying of COVID-19 in New York City. I was working as a social worker at a senior center at the time and actually had to work for a few weeks in person as the COVID-19 virus was spreading rapidly. And the employer that I was working for had no idea what to do and didn't really have any guidance from the government, as the city and the state were dragging their feet as to how to respond to all of this. I was also living with my wife's parents, both of whom are seniors, and they had multiple medical conditions that they were dealing with. So I'll never forget the fear of going to work and then coming home to family, feeling as though I was placing myself and loved ones at risk of a deadly pandemic, while also feeling like I didn't have any help or recourse from the government. Living in New York City during COVID-19 was a scary experience and remains so, mainly because public health measures still primarily fall upon the individual, fall upon myself and my loved ones to protect each other from COVID-19. But even more surreal to me has been this lingering feeling that if I had just traveled to China a bit later, I would have felt a lot safer and lived a lot more of a normal life there over the last 2 years of this COVID-19 disaster.